Hello, Vanessa. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you for joining me for a couple minutes. Um, for those of you watching, Vanessa is our lead designer. She's brilliant at it. So we're going to get some of her thoughts on design and positioning and brand and all that. But she is also an incredible artist, hence the design, and a runner. You're a very good runner from what I know that for a fact because we've run together,
Yes.
and you're quite fast. Is that true or false?
No, I am semi. There's always people that are going to be faster than me and slower than me. So there.
There's probably very few that are faster. Anyway, so thank you for hanging out. For those of you who are watching, we are talking a little bit about brand positioning, but more so how brand positioning impacts creative and design when it comes to branding or branding of it, visual brand identity, or any of the assets that you're trying to build out. Vanessa is going to talk to us a little bit about why that's important to consider, what brand positioning does for design and how that helps become more efficient and things like that. So a question for you is when you're approaching any design project for clients, for ourselves, anything like that, where you're working on, let's say, a visual brand identity, how does positioning usually impact that process?
So yeah, understanding the brand positioning of a company is super important for a designer. It kind of serves as a guidepost for every design decision that we make. From the name of the logo or from the name of the company to the logo to the colors you choose, it all needs to align with and support how the particular business wants to be perceived by their ideal client. And it just really helps us maintain focus throughout the process.
Yeah. You mentioned, I like the word you mentioned too, like perceived. Honestly, half of the work we do is just to create the right perception, not necessarily misbelief, but like, hey, here's how we want to influence people in a way that they think about us and the way we want to be thought about. So when it comes to actual design, we've talked about brand positioning and kind of the strategic elements of that. But when it comes to like a creative strategy and backing that up, what are things that you tend to use in design to influence perception for those that may not know? Is it colors, fonts? Is it all the above? Is it styles, tone, all those types of things? Why don't you talk with you about those?
Yeah, it's all of those things. Colors, fonts, to the copy, headlines, what your website looks like. It's this whole package that, it really helps communicate what that business wants to get towards their client or to their ideal customer. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me if I'm accurate. Here's a thought I guess I have is like, if we work on positioning and really you want to be perceived as like a luxury brand, let's say, or even in a B2B space, we work with a lot of B2B clients. So they want to be perceived as, the kind of like end all be all of a product. They want to feel very corporate and legitimate. My guess is the reason creative is important because you don't want to go with a bunch of bright colors and kind of like foul language, even if you're working on messaging or creative, like language that's really like silly or too playful, because that's not necessarily, you've worked so hard to create this perception, this strategy around like we want to be perceived as authoritative and confident, and yet your creative is just really playful, out of touch, and kind of like maybe too consumer focused and things like that. Now you have a bunch of disconnect between here's how we want to be perceived, but now all these design assets that people are seeing for the first, which is usually the first thing they see, right? It's the colors, it's the art.
Yeah. And it can turn people off. It can turn your target audience off if you use the wrong things. I'm thinking of, like Dollar Shave Club versus Gillette. We have these two companies. Dollar Shave Club is super more for the average guy and very affordable, and uses, more cheeky marketing. Whereas Gillette is like more reserved, more sophisticated for, it's two different demos. And, if you swap that, it would be not, we would not be communicating the right things to the audience.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. Even in other, like even when, it's super popular with consumer products, but even like tech or like business products, I think of something like MailChimp or SurveyMonkey as compared to maybe like a HubSpot or a Klaviyo. It's like those two are a little bit more, they're professional because they're trying to focus on enterprise level companies, where maybe MailChimp is shifting, I don't know for a fact, but at least for a while, they were like the very small, medium sized kind of like solopreneur, entrepreneur focused on that category. So a lot of their stuff was very simple and playful and kind of lighthearted. Would you say that is probably accurate of what their positioning was attempting to do?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, so those are good thoughts. I guess one of the big questions too, if there's any like designers listening to this, or even maybe strategists that are in charge of communicating with designers, hey, this is what we want to achieve. What specific elements from either a positioning strategy or a brand's positioning are you looking for as cues to influence your design? Are you looking for like the audience that they're trying to go after? Are you looking for what they want to say about themselves, what they want to achieve? Like, what are some of the things that you're looking for to answer those questions for you?
So yeah, we need to, in order to create a successful designs, we need to understand, the service you provide, obviously, how your service will improve the lives of, your ideal client, and how you are unique or what differentiates you from your competitor. That is super key, because a lot of times I feel like people come to us and they don't really know what makes them unique or what that special thing is. So really understanding that and diving into what they do will help us position them in a way to bring that uniqueness out.
Yeah. That's a great thought. Yeah, I've seen that happen. I've seen it happen both ways. I've seen that executed really, really well. Then sometimes you see it and you're kind of like, that doesn't really add up. That doesn't make sense. Right. And then off of that too, I'm sure that you've experienced this just as much as I was, like, brand, especially younger or growing brands, they'll often look at maybe the industry leader or something like that and just kind of copy what's done. Yeah. And I'm sure I get that. Like, if they don't know what they're doing, it's certainly a safe bet. Like, okay, someone who's successful does this. But at the same time, you've really lost a huge battle at that point, because you're not standing out. You're not very different. You're not attracting people to who you are. I'm sure that's an issue that you faced a lot.
Yes. Oh yeah, definitely. It's just trying to find that, special thing from that business that we can really highlight and make them just a little bit different.
Sure.
And it will catch the audience's attention for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's some great insight. Thank you for sharing those. Anything else you'd like to add around this conversation you feel like would be valuable?
I don't think so. Those were all great questions. Yeah.
Cool. We try. Well, thanks for sharing your thoughts. For anyone watching this, I'm going to link a brand positioning worksheet in the notes. So if you're working through your brand's position, or even if you have one and you're just curious of how to think through that, maybe revisit it, which we do recommend anywhere between 2 and 3 years, just looking at like how you're going to reposition yourself. Feel free to work through that. It's not a comprehensive end all be all guide, but it is a place to get started and maybe think through some things that you haven't before. Vanessa, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. I'm sure we'll talk at some point soon, but other than that, I will see you in Slack.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.